I doubt it. We never saw a coordinated approach across the EU at any time, really, during COVID. So I'd be surprised if it starts now. And I think that the issue about whether or not screening of infectious diseases at points of entry into country have any value is quite open to debate. There was a big review of all the evidence in 2019, which concluded that such screening for infectious diseases was actually ineffective. And since COVID, there's nothing's changed to that conclusion. There's been papers that looked at the value of screening at points of entries and basically not really being able to show that it had much value in controlling international spread of infectious diseases.
So you think that screening doesn't have much of a role to play? What about travel restrictions? Can they help stop the spread of diseases like COVID?
They can, but only for a certain while. And what we saw at the beginning of COVID was that although the pandemic started in China, for the UK, most of our early infections came from France, Spain, or Italy. And so if you're going to close your borders, and closing your borders can actually delay infections like New Zealand did, but they closed their borders to pretty much every country. If you just did that for China, then what about people coming from other surrounding countries or intermediate countries that were still open to China? You know, this spread is inevitable. But what we're seeing in China at the moment is that most of the infections are variants that actually have been present in Europe for many months. And one of them particularly, the BF.7, that is probably responsible for about half of the variants in China, actually peaked in the UK back in September, October time, and has been in decline because other variants from elsewhere in the world have sort of outcompeting it.
So do you think that lessons have been learned from the early days of the pandemic when it comes to trying to stop the spread?
Yes, but I think one of the problems here is that it depends who you talk to about what those lessons were, and I don't think often there is no real consensus amongst different scientists about what works and what doesn't, and that's a problem. You can always easily find people to disagree on COVID, but getting people to agree is not quite so easy.
Paul Hunter from the University of East Anglia, great to talk to you today. Thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.